Welcome to Self-Education Your Future Self will thank you for. I'm Courtney Brame, and I am feeling really, I'm feeling good. Good is, I don't know why good is the best word that I can come up with right now. But I'm coming off of vacation. I was in Arizona for the weekend with my partner Lindsay, and we went to Sedona. We went to the Grand Canyon, and we stayed in this place called Cottonwood. And we flew in and out of Phoenix, but the last day we were there, we spent in Phoenix. So it was nice. It was a much needed vacation. This was the first time that I had gone out of town, and it wasn't for my nonprofit, something positive for positive people. So this was good. It was just a little getaway. I spent my own money and bought us food and did things. We did a bunch of hiking. My legs are on fire, and while I feel like I almost died a handful of times, I think that after having had that experience, I do feel a little bit more alive than I had before. I didn't realize just how afraid of heights I was. I've always had a resistance to heights. Um, but this was ridiculous. She's like, come out here on the edge and look over here. I didn't even want to look. And I saw these people around, and being around the edge, around people I don't know, I don't trust y'all. All it takes is for somebody to fall themselves, grab me, and I'm falling with them. I had wanted nothing to do with that. But over time, as I walked, I got a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer to where I got to expand the limits of my comfort around the mountains and around heights, and even the drive. The drive was so scary to me because there were these edges that one wrong turn, one person going over the line, going too fast, losing control, you would fall off the cliff. And maybe that's not common at all, but to me, everything that could go wrong could go wrong. So in my head, I was just really afraid of going off that cliff or hitting something. And there's barriers and things like that in the way that protect you. But I was always just like, what if, what if, what if, what if? And I caught myself doing that a lot. So it was good for me to, even after having had all of those thoughts about what can go wrong, possibly going wrong, and then nothing actually going wrong, metaphorically speaks to where I'm at in life, like right now, in terms of breaking through my own self-imposed limitations. I told myself, I'm afraid of heights. I can't walk to this edge. I'm not going to go out that far. I'm uncomfortable with this. And my legs were wobbling the whole time. And even when I was driving, my hands were sweaty on the steering wheel. Now, mind you, the thing about the driving part was that it is in my car. I don't have insurance. If something goes wrong, I'm liable for whatever it is. So there was also that added fear behind it. Fear is a good word. But I was scared. I spent a lot of time scared up in the mountains, driving and walking on the ledges, being around people. And I kind of realized that a lot of that is just what my norm is. Maybe being in just like this triggered state of awareness to where I'm always expecting the worst thing to happen. The worst thing that could happen, and I need to be prepared for that. So I found myself just doing that so much, where it's like, if someone makes this move or does this or attacks me or threatens me in a way, I have to respond that way. And I realized just how much of my energy, just how much of my thoughts were really fueling that feeling of being triggered on a regular basis, to the point where I'm essentially numb to it. What does it feel like to have good thoughts? What does it feel like to have things go right? This is something that I now have to challenge myself on, because I just had this whole experience over the weekend, and looking back on it, I'm upset that it ended. While I was in it, I couldn't wait to get down the mountain. I couldn't wait to get back to the Airbnb from the curvy mountains that we drove around. And here I am now back home safe, and like I'm feeling adventurous. I'm feeling like, oh man, I could have done that more, or I could have done more climbing. I could have done more more climbing, more hiking, more of the outdoorsy stuff, like push myself even further. And it's kind of like this little drug that released in my brain, or some chemical reaction um, that makes me feel like, because I expanded the barriers of my safety net and what's comfortable for me, what's known, I can do more of the unknown. And in fact, I want to do more of the unknown. I want to continue to explore those boundaries and go outside of that. So this was a really good experience for me, and I'm glad that I was able to get out. I didn't post it or anything, but I got the COVID vaccine. I got it in February. I got the first one, and then in middle of March I got the second one. So here we are in the middle of April. Like, I've been vaccinated for about a month, so I really wasn't concerned. I think that probably would have been another added layer of fear, considering the possibility of getting stuck out in Arizona because I tested positive for COVID and started having symptoms or whatever. But all of that aside, like, it was just a completely fun-filled experience for me to have in a new environment. Never been to Arizona before, and just doing that. And they say that Sedona is a place where people have like this spiritual reconnection to themselves, to nature. And I don't know what it would feel like to have necessarily had an awakening or the connection at all. But I know that while I was there, I challenged myself in a very different way than what I could do if I hadn't gone to Sedona. So me being able to have challenged myself and expand those boundaries, those limitations that I put on myself, it made me look back and realize other areas that I've challenged myself. And this is actually a really good segue into what I wanted to talk about. I had a friend in town, and she and I had known each other for almost 7 years. I want to say it's been about 7 years. And we met on a dating site, Plenty of Fish, if you're familiar with that one. And it was not too long after I got herpes. I moved to Houston, Texas, and I was dating, and she and I had messaged each other for a bit. And she was super spiritual. At least to me, she was spiritual. And something about that drew me to her. And we made plans to connect, but we just didn't. When we first matched and were messaging and whatnot, she was traveling, and I don't know what I was doing at that point in time, but it just never lined up. But we stayed in touch, we became friends, and not too long after that, I let her know that I was starting this podcast, and she knew about the podcast, and I actually interviewed her on one of the podcast episodes. I think I talked about this, but she had been diagnosed with herpes, and because I talked to her about the podcast, even though it was a year or two later after her own diagnosis, she had come to me and just like asked for guidance and like information, basically. So she and I got to meet on Tuesday, and this is really awesome because this is one of the people that I feel most safe emotionally processing things with. I've learned what I identify to be a safe space, or a person, partner, friend, relationship, connection to be safe. And it's if I can process with you emotionally, or emotional things, or process feelings. Let's say that. If I can process feelings with you, then you are someone that I deem emotionally safe, and I can connect with you. So she's been that to me. I've been that to her for years. And so she came into town. She stayed here from Tuesday to Friday, and it was amazing. It was amazing to have finally met, to be able to touch each other, to see each other, to smell each other, to just embrace one another after having developed such an intense just emotional and energetic connection with each other. So we hung out. We didn't really do much. I mean, it's a pandemic. A lot of the stuff that would have been cool to do or see was closed, besides like eating food. Like, we got food, but that was pretty much it. But she stayed over. She's real big into like cupping massages. So she broke out the cupping equipment, and we massaged each other. And something that I mentioned this to her, like a couple of days in, I couldn't really describe the feeling. We never had sex, and that's a big part to mention here, because yes, I am very attracted to her, and I believe that she's attracted to me as well. I don't. I mean, I wouldn't really know how to um, determine that, I guess. But she was there. She stayed. She didn't leave. um, but we hung out, and it was nice. And um, I noticed that I was extremely horny, right? And whenever I'm horny, or if my penis is hard and I'm not doing much of anything else, the default reaction is go masturbate or have sex with someone. So there's someone here that I'm attracted to. Why not proposition her for sex, right? I went on and challenged that for myself. She and I had a conversation about sex previously. So a conversation was had already. So proposing it shouldn't have been an issue. But I wanted to do something different with it because that's one of the things that I've been doing. I've been challenging myself to find new ways to connect with people, especially women, that isn't a default response of putting my penis in them, right? Uh, so I sat with it. Like, I was hard. There were instances where she was aware clearly that I was hard. I had massaged her. She had massaged me. And we used the cupping massage stuff on one another, and we talked and we held space with one another. And at one of the times, I just was like, you know what? I feel like this is a healing experience for me. I feel like I had sex without like actually having sex. So like I'm sitting here, hard dick and all, like the energy of being aroused is running through my body, and I'm not having sex, but I'm feeling it rather than giving it to someone else or putting it somewhere else, like whether it be watching porn and masturbating or whether it be having sex with someone. I had to sit with and experience that energy and decide to do something different with it consciously. So what this looked like was an intentional touch or intentional presence even. And it was there, it was acknowledged, but I didn't act out of a habitual pattern. And I still felt like I had sex. What does it feel like to have sex? The way that I would equate that is the feeling of connectedness. I realize other times I felt like I did the thing that leads to the feeling of having sex, and it's when I feel connected to. I've played sports since I was 12 years old, and I had very strong connections with the men around me, the boys that we became men around me, not just on the field but off the field. And I think that the experiences that we shared both on the field and off the field had like a connection. Like I felt connected. I felt in sync with another person or other people, with a brotherhood, community, whatever wording best suits um, the occasion, I guess we can say. And I wonder if that feeling of connectedness is actually what I look for when it comes to sex. So sex with a woman, someone I'm attracted to, it looks like, all right, my penis is hard, I'm aroused, my body's aroused, like let's merge bodies. That's connectedness. But what if bodies don't have to merge in order for you to feel connected? Like me and her have been friends for almost 7 years. We'd never met, we'd never touched, we had seen each other on video chat, and our interactions have never been sexual. So what does it look like to feel like you had sex without any hints of sex or any sort of any intention of sex at all being on the table, right? That's what this feeling was. I felt like myself had extended beyond whatever limitations of my body have. And I felt as if we were playing in each other's energetic body, just like merging in that way. And perhaps that's what sex is supposed to feel like, or that's what sex feels like to just be able to be in the same space with someone and connect by being on the same page through mental stimulation, the same page of perhaps emotional exchanges, being on the same page of just like in presence and holding space with and for one another, to have that sense of safety and security with the most fragile aspects of ourselves, our most vulnerable parts of ourselves, our emotions and our real selves, our true identities, to be able to be across from someone or next to someone and just trust. And the reason that I call this a healing experience for me is because I've been exploring what non sexual connections look like with women. I have been in pursuit of intentionally platonic relationships with women because I habitually just feel like, all right, sex, like that's my go to. It's sex. I feel like if we have sex, I can connect with you at any level. Like that is the limit breaker, right? But I've been challenged recently to like, what if sex is a limitation to connection, or what if connection is actually a limitation to sex? Like looking at it those two ways, and perhaps not just looking at sex as the only way for us to connect, simply because I think that, physical sex, intercourse, penetrating someone is as close as you can physically be with someone, right? So bringing the parallel of that energetically, emotionally, it's when you can just be bare assed emotionally with someone and embrace all aspects of your identity with another person. And for me, when I can be naked emotionally and process things and not feel judged, and exercising my identities, myself, the aspects of myself that people don't see. If you look at me, you have to be around, you have to witness my behaviors, you have to look at my history, you have to do all of these things in order to understand that I view myself in a way that aligns with my core values: evolution, peace, liberation. I value connection. I consider myself to be a connector. I consider myself to be connected. And I consider my primary motivation in life to be connection. So when my identities are put out there in a way that allows for me to be received, rejected, judged, experienced, that to me is an opportunity to connect. That's the most vulnerable that I can be. Um, that's the most naked that I can be energetically, let's say. Whereas with the body, the most naked I can be is just taking my clothes off, and we can connect if my penis is hard. Like that's been my historic thought process of what connection is. So this past week, I've really just been, I got to expand my limitation, not just in myself, but also with a person, in how I view my sexuality, how I view my sexual energy. I got to do something different with that. And the healing that took place was for me to be able to explore the energy as it ran through my body, looking at the thoughts that came up. Yeah, I had thoughts about what I wanted to do to her. Like what I wanted her to do to me. I even sit up here and act like I didn't. I had those thoughts, and it was just a matter of, okay, just be with them, be with them, be with them. I had the feelings, like, that feeling where perhaps it's like this electrical charge. It feels like that runs through your nervous system, down from the back of your head, down your shoulders, down your spine, and it's just like, damn, I'm attracted to you, or damn, I'm turned on by you, damn, I want to kiss you, I want to be inside you, right? These were all thoughts, these were all feelings, but for me, I wasn't a slave to those feelings. I mentioned that liberation is one of my core values. I have historically been a slave to my sexuality. And when I get those feelings, I feel like I need to viscerally respond to them. So what happened when I leaned into those feelings was the feeling that I pursue as a result of my body response to arousal, I still got that feeling. And yeah, granted, like it wasn't my genitals being touched and rubbed, but the sensation through your body, the feeling that the feeling of just being connected to someone. It didn't have to physically happen in order for me to experience that. And I think that this was a really powerful lesson for me to learn as someone who's exploring ways to connect, as someone who values connection and liberation. How can I continue to be a slave to my physical body and what I think that means for connection? I broke limits this past week, y'all. That was a limit breaker for me. This limitation that I had put on myself, that I didn't even know I put on myself, had been shattered through just a few days of being with my sexuality and not going through the same habit historically of utilizing it through sexual or intercourse with someone. So like I said, yeah, we were able to still touch each other, still speak to each other, and even share these feelings. Like we were able to sit there and talk about it. And I was able to say, oh my God, like I'm really fucking horny and I'm not doing what I normally want to do here, which is try to have sex with you. And I think on her end, like I don't want to speak for her, but I feel like it may have been healing for her as well to be able to just be vulnerable in that way with someone, or to be mostly naked since we had been massaging each other, and just like share that kind of space with someone you trust and not have that trust violated for sex, I guess. And like I said, I don't want to speak for her here, but I know for me it was really just liberating for me to not be a slave to my sexuality. Where do we go from there? That don't mean I like sex less. I still love the act of sex, right? Like nothing. I don't think anything's really gonna change that. Sex is sex, but I'm able to intentionally use my horniness, let's call it that energy, the undercurrent of horniness was just able to be used for healing for her, healing for myself, to challenge myself, to be able to sit with the discomfort of not acting out of a habit. So while this doesn't have to exclusively be interconnected to sex, what other ways can I be with and lean into a habitual pattern, right? When it comes up, when I get the feeling, when I get the thoughts, how can I lean into that? How can I feel it and allow for it to be there and be there with it, be there in it even? And then explore it. What is there to discover from it? What are some healthy ways for me to express it? Because the energy was there. If you ignore it or try and push it down, it just comes out in another way. But to lean into it, to be with it, and then consciously choose intentionally, that's the key word here, operating from a place of intention to move that energy, to express it. That was a new kind of feeling for me. No, I didn't have an orgasm or anything like that, but I still felt connected. And that's what sex is to me. Sex is a way to connect. It's a vehicle for connection. And I didn't realize this until recently, but that's been the only way that I've consciously felt connected or connected to. So what does that mean for somebody like me? If I only feel connected to when I'm having sex, I'm very dependent on another person, A, being someone who's willing to connect with me in that way. B, someone that I'm attracted to. Like, this really does inhibit my ability to connect with people if I am only willing to connect with people who have certain body parts, who I also have to find attractive, who also have to find me attractive in that way, and who also want to have sex. So if you pile those 4 or 5 things on top of one another, you have a very limited pool of people you can connect with. But I'm challenging that because this has just been, this is me logically processing that whole thought process. Because looking back on my experiences of when I felt connected, it was with my teammates. We struggled together. We had some of the best of times and the worst of times, but we were connected. I look at some of the people I played video games with, right? We've had conversations, deep conversations. We running around shooting people on Call of Duty. Some of my best friends. We've had the best of times, worst of times. We felt connected. When we gang up, we get them, we drop 30 kills or whatever because we just in sync. We're in that flow state with one another or playing zombies. Just these are all opportunities, or these have been past opportunities for connection. These were moments that I felt connected. These are moments that I felt connected to with other people. And it wasn't the act of sex. The physical act of sex is not exclusively the way that I have to connect to people. And I learned that. I learned that this past week. Like, I'm so grateful for having had that experience. I'm so grateful for having somebody that I could trust, who trusted me with, not just her physical presence. Like, yeah, we've known each other for about 7 years, but like, I'm a big, strong dude. Like, for her to have trusted me, especially considering her past trauma and history with men and like just not having her nose hurt, like, this was really, really big for both of us. And the overall experience, I just learned so much about myself just in this one little thing. Like, and then being able to have that limitation shattered and being able to challenge, okay, well, what is sex to me? Sex is connection. No, sex is a vehicle for connection. It's one way to connect. Like, I don't have to, like, it's not like a matter of, oh, you want to get to know me and I want to get to know you. Here, let me put this in you real quick, and then bam, we can connect. That's not how it should be. But that's, if I'm being honest, like, putting my thoughts out here, like, that would be what the actions, that would be the source of the actions. My actions stemming from those thoughts, stemming from beliefs, that's what it would have been. It would have been, oh, me connect, me penis, you vagina, and then bam, all of a sudden we can talk that vulnerability shit. No, that ain't it no more. And that's just been this unconscious programming that I've had. So consciously programming or conscious programming, I mean, I'm still attracted to people. I'm still gonna want to have sex with people. Like, this didn't change that. It just opened up my range of perspective to understand that all of my most intense or most influential or most prevalent connections don't have to include sexuality or sex at all. And if sexual energy comes up, it's not something that has to be acted on. It can just be felt and experienced and expressed in an intentional way. Maybe it looks like me going off and creating something. Maybe it looks like me using this toward healing. Or maybe I'm like more hyper aware of my surroundings and intuitive when I'm able to just be horny and have a conversation. Like, maybe I feel different. Maybe I feel, because of being so in tune with the undercurrent of arousal and not hurrying up and avoiding it or dismissing it through the act of sex, perhaps I'm able to more so connect with someone else's undercurrent. Maybe they're not aroused. Maybe they're something else. Maybe they're nervous. Maybe there's a different feeling to it. Maybe they don't feel connected. They feel disconnected. And I could be able to pick up on that. And we can ride that wave together. And without actually having sex to connect, we can just be connected. And if the feeling of sex is what it is that I'm after, then why can't I just continue to connect with people? And if sex happens, then yay, that's a bonus. But it shouldn't be the go-to starting point or the go-to intention. Like, even with touch, like, there were points where touch could have been interpreted as arousal touch, or for the intention of leading to sex. Because I've given massages all the time that lead to sex. You know how it is, where someone's laying on their stomach and you're rubbing behind them. Bam, your penis touches them, and bam, you next thing you know, you in there, right? It wasn't like that. You know, again, like I was hard. She felt it, but that wasn't the intention of the touch. The intention of the touch was exploration beyond the limitations of sex. So to be able to just touch someone in, I guess, particularly erogenous zones, maybe that's the word, but to touch people where normally that kind of touch would lead to intercourse, and then it not lead to intercourse, but still have that feeling of connectedness that we seek through intercourse. Like that's some powerful shit. Like I leveled up this past week, and I'm excited about having leveled up in that way. I am so excited that I got to meet someone who's just become so close to me that I hadn't met before. For that energetic connection to have been solidified through physical presence with one another, like it feels genuinely real. And I can't say that I've been in this particular situation because I'm an adult now. Maybe I've experienced it at times where I probably couldn't have sex for whatever reason, or shouldn't have had sex for any reason or whatever. But for me to have left this experience not like, man, I got blue balls, you're not gonna take care of me, please. Like, and not to say I've done that before, but I know people who have. I got a lot of female friends who share. Let me rephrase it. I have a lot of straight female friends who've shared like guys being like that. It's so wild to me, some of the stuff women put up with, but that's a different conversation. For me to have just walked away from this and not felt a need to masturbate or feel a need to make myself like find somebody to have sex with, I love it. This was another opportunity for self-trust for me. I can trust myself. I do trust myself, and I can trust myself in situations like this to just be able to connect. Because even when I've gone out in the past, when I was single, I always felt like the intention had to always be, okay, sex. But really, the intention should have just been connection. Why can't I just have conversations with people at the bar? You know, if it leads to us leaving together and perhaps making out or not having sex at all, why can't it? And even when I did leave the bar with places, there were times where I didn't have sex, but I was always in my head about, should I ask to have sex? Should I try to have sex? Like, what is it? And that's probably just come off as awkward in the past. But again, you know, here I am. I leveled up. And I'm proud. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of this experience. I'm proud of who I'm becoming. I'm proud of even having this space here to process that entire experience of being able to just be horny, lean into my arousal, and intentionally express it in a different way. Like explore and discover what that means for me. And do so in a way that was healing for everybody involved. So while sex is a vehicle for connection, it's not the vehicle for connection. And that's one of the bigger takeaways here. You don't have to have sex in order to feel connected, Courtney. You are connected. And sex is just one way of expressing that and experiencing that. But I'm also no longer a slave to my sexuality. It doesn't drive the unconscious behavior of a need to get away from the discomfort of the feeling in my body, because in a neutral, natural state, that's normal, that's comfortable, that's centered, right? But any little bit of arousal, regardless of what the arousal is for, let's use it as genitals, right? The blood is flowing to my genitals, so my body's like, hey, have sex. I was like, nah, body, no, you're not running the ship here. I am. Me, Courtney. My identities. Evolution. Peace. Liberation. So you're not going to continue to treat me like your slave, because I am the electrical current that runs through the nerves that tells the body what to do. Body tells me what it wants. I'm the one that says, okay, here you go. But I'm prioritizing myself. I'm prioritizing my identities. Yes, my body has functions to serve, my mind serves functions, but me identifying as that electrical current that runs through the nerves, my body I can't be a slave to my body. I can't be a slave to my mind. I can't be a slave to the outside world because I'm exploring, discovering, and expressing my identities, myself. And there is nothing more liberating than that. There is nothing more evolving than that. There is nothing more peaceful than that. I'm not saying everybody need to go start a podcast and start expressing themselves the same way that I am, but there's probably like a little bit of a nudge or calling in you as someone who's hearing this, and maybe you're getting those chills down your spine, that electrical current in you is even activating, and something that I'm saying perhaps resonates with you. Act on it. What's the worst that can happen? If you act on that intuitive nudge, that universal pull into the direction of you to be able to self explore, self discover, self express in whatever way that fits you. Maybe you want to dress a little bit different. Maybe it's not something that's out there and superficial, but maybe you want to join a community. Maybe you want to support a community. Maybe you want to start something. Maybe you are a leader. Maybe you're a healer. There are invisible aspects of our identities and our being and who we are that people will never see if we don't express it. It's not a matter of telling people, it's expressing it. And I hope that, if nothing else, that people are able to take from this that, I value realness. This is me being real. I'm processing. This is me processing. I'm processing this stuff as it comes up and I think about it. I wanted to process all of this and then talk about it because I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know what was going to come out, but it feels right. I feel connected. I feel in alignment. So I feel like nothing that I've said today was wrong. And I think that you can do that too. If you just have that, you listen to yourself, hear yourself. And if listening to yourself is really challenging, then start speaking because that's you. That's you. Your thoughts are there and they're based on your past experiences. Your body is there and it's asking for things that it needs based on your past experiences, what you've given it, what you've not given it. But you the pilot. You're the fuel that runs through the body. That's you. You're that electrical current. Take charge. Take charge. Don't be scared to lean into discomfort, lean into uncomfortable feelings, challenge old habits and habitual patterns that you've had. Don't be scared. It'll be okay. And it's even better when you can have an accountability partner or source and people around you who can hold you to whatever it is that you say you want to do. Do that. You got it. All right. So we'll just go ahead and close it out here. That concludes this episode of Self-Education, Your Future Self. A thank you for. If you're listening to this, thank you. I appreciate it. You can leave a review or something. Like I mentioned, I don't really care to put a whole lot into this. This is just this is my healing for me. This is my space that I've created for self-expression, self-discovery, self-exploration, and just navigating my own identities as those values that I mentioned and being a leader and wanting to just take care of myself. I take care of my body. I take care of my mind. But myself, my identities have been neglected for so long. And here I am now with the space to offer to my identities in a way that allows for me to continue to feel connected. It fuels my purpose. So I wish and hope that you find that for yourself as well. Till next time, get selfed. Oh, that is terrible. I need to come up with something there. Bye, y'all.